is Annie of ByAnnie.com and Patterns by Annie. Thank you so much for joining us today for Live with Annie. As usual, we've started the stream a bit early. This helps us get everything set up and broadcasting properly to our various platforms. You can find a countdown clock on the screen showing how long it will be until we actually go live. While you wait, please connect with us and other viewers in the chat. Let us know where you are from and whether you're a new or longtime viewer. We'll see you live soon! Thanks again for joining us for Live with Annie. We are so happy to have you with us today. While you wait for the program to start, we hope you'll enjoy the content playing on screen. There's so much inspiration, so take a moment to tell us what you love in the chat. Don't forget there is a countdown clock on the screen so you know how long until we go live. It's Annie again, reminding you that we'll be going live with this week's episode shortly. There is a countdown clock on the screen showing how much time is left. You've got just enough time to grab some water or a beverage of your choice and a snack, and to connect with us in the chat. We'd love to hear what you've been working on this week. It's Annie, back to remind you that we'll be starting this week's live very shortly. We've got a really fun episode planned for today, and we'll see you soon. Hi, I'm Annie of ByAnnie.com and Patterns by Annie. Thank you so much for joining us for Episode 8 of Season 5 of Live with Annie. I am so excited today to share a closer look at all of the new patterns we introduced this spring. These include patterns for everyone from beginners to advanced makers, featuring projects that can be made in as little as an hour to more involved weekend projects. These fun and useful patterns are sure to jumpstart your creativity, so stay tuned. It is always so good to see all of you here. We know there are lots of things you could be doing with this time, and we really appreciate it when you make the time to be with us, even if you are catching us on the replay. Please take a moment to follow us wherever you are watching, and if you know someone else who you think might enjoy the information that we share, we would be really grateful if you would tell them about Live with Annie. Just tag them while you're watching, as that will take them directly to the episode so they can watch it too. Also, we all love reading your comments, so be sure to interact with us throughout this presentation. We want to know what you think, and we love learning from you too. If you have any questions, just add them in the comments or chat, and we will do our best to answer them before we close. In our last episode, we had a delightful conversation with Giuseppe Roboto of Juicy Juice. We talked about his new line 40 for Andover fabrics and showed a variety of projects made using it. I really love the colors and designs in that fun line. Juicy also shared tips for foundation paper piecing, also known as FPP, using FPP for improv quilting, color selection, and more. So if you missed that episode or want to watch it again, remember that you can find all the previous 190 episodes of Live with Annie on our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, or at ByAnnie.com. And we've put up all the links to make them easy for you to find. All right, let's talk about some new patterns. With 5 new patterns, there is so much to talk about, so let's get going. Remember, if you can't stay for the whole episode, this episode will be available at ByAnnie.com live or on our YouTube channel, so you can always watch it later. And Jake will add chapter headings too, so you can jump to the various sections of the video. So many of you have enjoyed making our pattern to Big Totes, which we introduced last fall. That pattern includes instructions for a large and an extra large tote, each of which will carry basically everything you need. But sometimes you want the convenience of a tote in a smaller, more compact bag. So today we are excited to introduce you to 2 Big Totes little sisters, 2 Little Totes. So meet small and medium. And I'm going to get large and extra large out of the way for right now. We'll come back to these later because I want to talk about some of the differences between the two. There's not hardly room for me to stand back here today. But like their big sisters, each of these 2 totes features sturdy straps for comfortable over-the-shoulder carrying. They also have a combo slip and zip pocket on the front and a slip pocket on the back, each of which provide easy access to your phone, your keys, and more. There's a zipper closure at the top that keeps the contents secure and opens to fall flat against the sides for easy access to the interior. And on the inside, just like on 2 Big Totes, take this paper out of here so we can see it a little bit better. We have bellowed inner dividers, on this side, a bellow inner divider on each one to keep your larger items like water bottles upright and organized. And then on the other side, we have inner slip pockets for smaller items. The inside of each also features a base stabilizer to support the bottom and distribute the weight so it keeps your contents safe. Like 2 Big Totes, we have really simplified the process for making these totes. But these are even easier because the pieces are so much smaller. And most of the sewing on these projects is done while it's flat, and you will really appreciate that you don't have to fight a great big piece of fabric through the construction. We've avoided that by splitting these projects into 2 major pieces. So there's a tote front and a tote back. And you make the tote front, you create that by adding the pockets and the handles. You create the tote back by creating those pieces on there, and all of those are done while the pieces are completely flat. And then once the tote front and tote back are completed, then you join them along the bottom and along the sides to form the bag. We've also added a base made out of a sturdy material such as vinyl or cork, which you attach after the two pieces are joined, and that helps protect the bottom. It also gives just a really nice finishing tote. One thing to pay attention to, and we will cover this in the add-on video, but the small tote is shorter and narrower than the medium. No, excuse me. The small tote is shorter and, okay, so shorter this way, narrower this way than the medium tote. You can kind of see the different sizes, but the small tote is deeper. So the distance across here is bigger on the small tote. So that means that when you're cutting and sewing the bag, some of the pieces for the small tote are bigger than those for the medium tote. So really pay close attention to the measurements and sizes as you cut and sew. It wouldn't be a bad idea to take a highlighter marker and highlight the pieces and the sizes for the particular one that you're doing. All right, you will also be especially pleased to hear that the add-on video for this and all of the new patterns that we introduced this season include instructions for the entire pattern. So you will get help every single step of the way. And as always, each paper pattern includes a coupon, so you can get that add-on video free. Just make sure that you are logged into your account, then add the video to your cart, enter the unique code that's on the coupon when you check out, and then you'll find the you'll find the course, it's called a course, under the Learning tab, or just by typing in the name of the pattern at ByAnnie.com, and it'll always list the pattern at the top, and then that's followed by the add-on video. So make sure you're doing that. And once you get there, everything's accessible for you to watch all the videos. And they're all numbered by step, so you can pick and choose the ones that you need. Or if you need to go back to certain ones, they're easy to find. All right. Show me, Shar, which one I was going to show. Okay, Rising Tide. I am going to put these here because I'm going to need those again later. And we are going to grab this set. All right, so for each of the totes, we recommend 4 fabrics. So you start with one main fabric that's used for the exterior of the bag. You pick a lining fabric that you use for the interior, and then you pick a coordinating fabric which you use for the handles, the bindings, and the zipper strip at the top, and all your inner pockets. Then there's a 4th fabric that we use for the base. And that can be vinyl. Clear vinyl works really good. It can be canvas, it can be cork, it can be a colored vinyl, lots of different options. So we made this fun set using a new fabric called Rising Tide, which is by Monica Forsberg for Free Spirit Fabrics. Because there was so much going on with the main and lining fabrics, we used a fabric called Aboriginal Dots from K Facet for the coordinate on each of these. And I really thought that the colors blended perfectly and kind of helped those busy fabrics tone down a little bit. So this one I have packed all ready to go to the beach this summer. And you can see that I've got a vinyl base on here, so that's going to really protect the bottom. If I set it down on the sand, there's still plenty of room in here for my towel, my flip-flops, my book, my water, my snack, and my sunglasses. So all of that fit in there just fine. So it holds a lot even though it's a fairly small bag. And I am just going to take these, I guess I'll slide them back in here. I'm not going to put them back in nearly as nicely organized as they were to start with, but there they go. Because of the front and the back of the fabrics are assembled separately and joined in those final steps, you can see that directional fabrics are going to work just fine for this project, for both the main and the lining fabrics. So just be sure when you make it that you position the pieces with the design at the top when it says, you know, whatever goes at the top. Of course, if you want to add more fabrics or mix things up, that's always an option too. So let's look at some of the other models that we've made. So for this fun set, we used Tula Pink's new line called Gray Work. And on the medium tote, we used the medium tote, which is this one. I have to get myself organized here. So we used the polar bears in the dark gray colorway for the body, and then we fussy cut a piece of that for the front and back pockets. And we used the dark gray multicolored stripe for most of the handles, bindings, and the base facings, but we introduced 2 more coordinating fabrics for some other parts. So first of all, it would have been a real pain if we had used that stripe for this little border on this pocket, because trying to match the stripes here with the stripes on the binding would have just been more than I wanted to deal with. So instead we picked Tula Pink's palms and used that for the border on the front pocket. We also used the palms for the zipper strip at the top. And I think that our new orchid color of zipper really goes beautifully with that. It matches the color of the circles perfectly. And then on the outside, to add some interest, can you see it? I can turn it inside out. So we used her Seal the Deal fabric, this one is called, in the lighter gray colorway for the inner divider, the inner slip pockets, and the base stabilizer sleeve. So on this little small tote, we took leftover quilted fabric from that and used it for the front and back pockets, but then we added a second set of quilted fabrics that we used for the body. So for that, we used a dark gray triangle print as the main and the lighter gray multi-palms for the lining. And I really like how this more solid background on the tote really makes these pockets pop. And for both of these, we fussy cut those fabrics so that the bear heads were centered on the pockets. One thing to keep in mind if you are going to do that is when you're cutting this front pocket, there's 2 pieces. So there's a front pocket that has a zipper attached, and behind that is another pocket, and that one is completely covered. So don't bother to fussy cut that, because no one is going to look inside there and see all the work you went to. So that's a great place to just use any scrap. These are only 6 inches square when you cut them, the back ones, so it doesn't take very much fabric at all. Also, we suggest that, as always, you make one tote using a non-directional fabric before you use your precious fabrics, because that way you'll really understand how everything goes together and what adjustments you need to make if you're using specialty fabrics. So the pattern includes instructions for adding a reinforced base at the bottom to reduce wear, and as we said earlier, you can use any sturdy fabric for that. Vinyl, such as our clear vinyl, canvas, cork, and the pattern includes special instructions for each of those. So I wanted to show you a set that we made using Seth Apter's new line called On the Mark. And for the small tote, we used the clear vinyl, and we used fabric facings for it that match the handles and the pockets. But on the medium tote, we used a leather look vinyl for the base, and that's a black one, and we thought that really gave a classy look to this tote. And because the leather look vinyl won't fray, we didn't need to add these facings, so that saves a bit of time too. This is one of my favorite sets. I just really love this line. Let me show you the inside of it too. That's the inside of that one. Let's take a look at the inside of this one. So we used a lighter lining for that and the same blue. I just think those are so pretty. Those are my colors for sure. All right, we have one last one here. So on this really lovely set, we used a new line of fabric called Flora and Form that's designed by Kate Leese of Isoldo. She's out of the UK, and she designed this for Wyndham Fabrics. And we used clear vinyl on the bottom of this, and on this one we used a blue cork. And I really like how the metallic accents that are in the cork match the metallic accents that are in the fabric. So the Two Little Totes pattern includes instructions for making fabric covered handles, and you strengthen those by inserting strapping into them. That makes it really easy to make handles that are going to perfectly match your bag. Jake's going to put up a picture of a set that we have that are off in Australia at a trunk show right now. But on this set that we made using Tula Pink's Full Moon Forest, Rather than making fabric-covered handles, we used Tula Pink's beautiful new ribbon webbing from Renaissance Ribbons. That not only saves some time, but it adds a fun pop of color to each of those totes. And I have one more. I guess I had more than I thought I did. This is one that I made as a prototype, so I don't know that it's made exactly according to how the pattern ended up, but that's okay because that means it becomes mine. So for this one, we used some special Bernina fabrics from Tex, and I thought that Tula Pink's black and white striped webbing was just perfect for the handles on it. So I've been doing a lot more sewing at work, but I always need to finish something at home, and this little tote has been just perfect for transporting my fabrics back and forth. The small version that I made is at home packed full of yarn for a sweater that I want to crochet. I just need a million more hours in the day to fit it in. I'm sure all of you can relate to that. All right, I want to go back and talk briefly about the set of these models, which I should cut that tag off of there. Makes it hard to really see what's going on. So these are a set that we made using some really beautiful hand-dyed fabric from Cherrywood Fabrics. So they had a collection that they introduced this year called their Desert Garden Collection, and it was a line of fabrics that was inspired by the stunning range of colors that are found in cacti and succulents. So the line has 16 really luscious cherrywood colors that represent the desert and rock gardens found throughout America. I really love succulents. And when I saw these new patterns that they did to go along with this line, called Thrillers, Fillers, and Spillers, I knew that I had to make some totes incorporating these designs. So these patterns are designed for quilts, so they're quite large. So I just had to resize them to fit the pockets. So there's 3 different sets, each of which is named for a type of succulent. So we have Jelly Bean, we have Lola, and we have one called Pork and Beans. And these patterns are super well done. They have drawings for each design. They have groupings by fabrics. And I really especially loved that Carla included a variety of colorways for each motif, and that her instructions really clearly indicated which fabrics to use for each piece. So when I got ready to do these, I just resized the designs to fit the pockets on the tote. And so you can see I did them for both of these totes. I also did them for both of the large totes. But even these were all reduced somewhat from the size that's in the pattern. I'm not going to lift these great big ones up here. We'll lift these up later and look at them. But I would just trace and fuse and cut out all the pieces. And I used a piece of parchment paper that made it really easy to put it over the pattern that she included so you could position all the pieces right where they needed to go. And then I took the completed design for, say, this particular succulent, and I positioned it on my pocket and fused that into place. And once all those were fused in place, to finish the edges, I used a blanket or buttonhole stitch. On my Bernina, it's number 1329, and you can do it mirror image, so you can do it going this way, or you can turn it and doing that way, depending on which way you're headed around your pieces. And I used SewFine number 50 thread in a coordinating green, and I did not change the color. I thought there's no way I'm going to have colors to match everything, so I'll pick one color, and I think this was probably the first one I did. So I picked a color that went with that, and I just stuck with that all the way through. But that worked really well. It probably took me longer to do the applique than it took to make the totes, but I am really happy with how they turned out. And as you can see, I did it on both the front and the back, as well as on the 2 big totes. So let's take a minute before we move on from 2 little totes to talk about how the 2 sets of totes compare. Let me get this out of the way, because we got to make room for these 2 big totes up here. So 2 big totes and 2 little totes. As we said earlier, they're pretty similar. But there is quite a size difference between the 4 of them. So if you want to see how they compare all next to each other, we'll stand them sideways, and then I'll turn them around so you can see them from the front, so you can get an idea of how the size difference. So obviously the main difference between the 2 patterns are the sizes. The design and the method of construction is very similar. Both of them have slip zip pockets in the front, slip pockets in the back, handles for carrying over the shoulder. On the two big totes, these are 1.5 inch wide. On the two little totes, they're 1 inch wide. Each of them, no matter which one you're doing, also has a reinforced base to help reduce wear and tear. On the two big totes, we designed these so that the zipper closure stops at the point where the bag folds to form the sides. So that means that even when the bag is completely full, when it's zipped closed, it's as wide at the top as it is at the bottom. And when we're working on prototypes for two little totes, we tried doing exactly the same thing on these, but it ended up that there was way too much open space on the sides. So what we did on these is we narrowed the width of the zipper tape on these. The width is exactly the same at the top as it is at the bottom, the bag when it's zipped closed. On these, we made it narrower at the top, but that enabled us to make it go further across. So when you zip this up, that basically zips it all the way across. I think that gives better security for your contents, and it gives it a little bit different shape. But when your zipper is open, as you can see, the zipper falls flat against the sides of the tote, so you still have really great access to the interior. These almost remind me of little caddies because you can open them and see everything inside so well. So again, both patterns have the inner slip pockets, the inner bellowed dividers, but because of the size of these totes, there's only one section in each of the bellowed dividers rather than two sections as on the two big totes, but we made sure that they were sized so you could still fit your large bottle of water into those. We also have an older discontinued pattern that is called Totally Trendy Totes. That pattern includes totes in 3 sizes. We compared them when we introduced 2 big totes last fall. So if you're curious about how that pattern compares, just go back and watch Live with Annie, Season 4, Episode 41, because we really did a deep dive into how that pattern compares then. Basically, these new patterns are so much easier to make because the projects are divided into 2 parts for most of the assembly. They also include our latest techniques and layout. But the medium tote in that pattern is fairly similar in size to the medium tote in this one. And this one then, of course, is smaller than any of the ones in that pattern. All right, so that was 2 little totes. Let me get these out of the way. And we will start on leader of the pack after I have a drink of water. So this is another brand new pattern called Leader of the Pack. Customers have repeatedly asked us for a larger school type backpack, and this versatile roomy backpack really fits the bill. I used leftovers from the tote projects to make this beautiful pack, which I customized by adding a succulent grouping on the front. So the backpack has 2 spacious zippered compartments, and we made these we were using leftovers, so we used 2 different fabrics, so that makes it really easy to see the front versus the back. So both of them open with zippers, and so that's the front compartment. This is the main compartment. We also have, before I go into what's inside, we have expanding mesh pockets on each of the sides. And again, these are sized so that they expand to hold large water bottles. On the back, we have comfortable padded straps, and these can be adjusted to a variety of sizes. And the pattern also includes instructions for lengthening these straps if you desire. There's a sturdy grab handle at the top that makes it really easy to hang the backpack on a hook or just to grab it and go. And let's talk now about the front compartment. So the front compartment has a zippered pocket in front. It's a perfect place to put a phone, put your keys, all those types of things that you need to get to really quickly. This opens to reveal a slip pocket as well as a gathered pocket. These are perfect spots for pens and pencils. Got some crayons in here, any of your personal items that you want to put in there. Because we designed it for school, we didn't want these zippers to go all the way down to the bottom, so we made them extend fairly far down, but not so far that you're going to worry about things falling out. You've got room in here for notebooks. We don't have any pockets on this side. We figured with the pocket there and all the pockets here, you wouldn't really need pockets there, but it wouldn't be hard to add them if you wanted to. All right, the main compartment also has a long zipper, and we stopped it about where the mesh compartments are. So it opens far enough that you've got, I'm going to take this bottle of water out of here, so that it gives you really easy access to the interior too. So on the inside of the front of the bag, we have a full height zippered mesh pocket. There's also on the back an expanding sleeve. That's the perfect spot for binders, books, or electronic devices like your laptop. Note that there isn't a whole lot of extra padding on the bottom of the bag, so if you are going to put a laptop into that sleeve, which is padded on the front but not at the bottom, other than the soft and stable that's in the bag, we do recommend that you put your laptop in a padded case for extra protection. And this is our extra large iCase 2.0, and as you can see, it fits in that sleeve perfectly. Actually, I'm going to leave that out because I don't want it to get left in here when we go to put this away. All right, if you have made other ByAnnie patterns, most of this pattern is going to be really familiar to you. But we did introduce a few new techniques in Leader of the Pack. So one thing that we did is we designed the front of the backpack to be shorter than the back. So to get everything to fit together properly, we added some pleats here on each side of the front zipper strip. And that works really well to reduce the length of the front strip so that it properly fits the smaller bag front. I can't tell you how many prototypes we went through trying to figure out how to get that exactly right, but I think we nailed it. The front compartment may look really similar to the front compartment on the go, but it is made and attached very differently. So just as for the other patterns in this round, you are going to be especially happy to hear that the add-on video for Leader of the Pack includes instructions for the entire pattern. Again, you'll get help every step of the way, so you'll figure out the process for doing this. So one thing that's different on this is that there is no back to this. There's just a back zipper strip, so that's attached straight to the bag front, and we bind it just part of the way around, and then this base is caught in the seam that's attached to the bag strip. So that's very different from any pattern that we've ever written. So kind of fun. All right, let's take a look now at a model that we made using Tilda's new fabric line called Wallflower. And this is from Benartex. So for each of the backpacks, we recommend that you use 4 fabrics. So there's a main fabric that you use for the exterior, a lining fabric that you use for the interior, a coordinating fabric, and here we picked their chambray, that's used for the grab handle, the straps, the bindings, so the bindings on the straps as well as around the front compartment and around the inside and on all the pockets. And then you're going to use a contrasting fabric for the front of the padded sleeve. You use the coordinating for the lining, and then when you get to this pocket inside the front compartment, you use the coordinate for the back part, which is a straight slip pocket, and then for the front you use a contrasting. And this is a really great place to use, a fabric that maybe has to be fussy cut, because it really shows up here and here too, both really nicely. So the pattern is designed that all of the bindings are cut from the coordinating fabric. However, a number of our testers said that they thought they would prefer to bind the front compartment with the same body as our fabric as the body of the backpack. So we updated the pattern to also include instructions for cutting different bindings for the outer edges of the front compartment. There's a different measurement if you want to do a different binding for the padded straps, and then a third measurement if you want to do all the interior bindings, which would be the interior of the main compartment and the interior of the front compartment. So there's plenty of ways you can mix that up. That's always an option. And if you want to mix up fabrics, there are lots of ways you can do that. As I was preparing for today, I believe this is the only bag that we made exactly according to the pattern. We always seem to somehow manage to mix things up. Actually, it's not, because it might be. I don't know. So let's look at one we made out of Kaif's fabric, which is this one. So we made this one using Kaif's new line called From the Archives, and on it we quilted a purple dots, fun purple dots, for the mane, and for the lining we picked a really colorful floral. And so for most of the bag we used the purple side out, but we made one small change here, and we used the lining side out on the pocket that's on the front compartment. So you can see that really livens things up and adds some interest, and didn't take us anything extra. It was the same fabric we'd already quilted, we just turned it right side or the other side out. And then we used a really vibrant orange print for the coordinate throughout, and we used a diagonal stripe for the contrasting fabric that's done on the inner pocket there and on the inside of the divider. We made this bag using Camp Kitschy Lala by Allison Glass for Andover. It mostly follows the pattern, but because we had a limited amount of fabric, we had to add some extra fabric. So rather than using the orange coordinate that we used for the bindings here, for everything, on the inside of the front compartment, we used a fourth or a fifth fabric for the inner slip pocket. We also used that for the back of the padded sleeve. So, you know, on a project like this, extra fabrics don't hurt at all. And if you don't have exactly the amount of fabric that it costs, it's just an excuse to get creative and try some other things. So on this pack that we made, again using Rising Tide, which I showed you earlier, by Monica Forsberg, we used two different mane and lining combinations. So for the body, we used this blue, green, orange kind of seaweedy print for the mane, and I love the lining that we picked to go with it. It's got crabs on it. So that's our lining and mane for our main compartment. And then on the front compartment, we created this really colorful pink lagoon scene, and on the other side of it, we used a really fun multicolor print. So the particular lagoon scene had a lot of kind of plain stuff, if you can call that plain, at the top, but then there was a big scene at the bottom. So we fussy cut that part to use for the front pocket of the compartment. And from that very same fabric, we fussy cut the front of the padded sleeve. We also fussy cut the front of the gathered pocket. And then we used a green and orange print for our straps, our grab handle, our inner pockets that were supposed to be cut from the coordinating fabric, and all of our inner bindings. But we cut the binding for this front compartment to match the main compartment. We also used that same binding for the padded straps on the outside. So to give that a little bit different look and make it not blend in so much with these. And though the front compartment was different from the main compartment, we decided to cut the binding from the main compartment so that it blends in better. If you chose to cut it out of this fabric, you could certainly do that. And the pattern again gives you instructions. Before we move on to a different one, let me share some really important tips for fussy cutting on this project. First, because we can never be sure that customers are using the same size zippers that we recommend, which is a number 4.5, and because we know that seam allowances can vary, we always cut, or we try to always cut our front pockets or any pockets that have a zipper large enough to work if someone is using a smaller number 3 zipper or a slightly larger seam allowance. So that means that if you are using the right size of zipper, you will need to trim about a 1/2 inch off the bottom of the pocket before attaching that. So if you're fussy cutting this project, make sure that you know you're probably going to trim a 1/2 inch away down at the bottom so that you can keep that in mind as you place any special motifs. If you want the design to line up with the design at the top, pay attention to the placement lines for the pocket when cutting. So I wanted the top of this to basically follow with that. So I marked my line where that was going to be, calculated what I was going to lose to my zipper and my binding, and then figured out how to place that from there. I got to have a drink before I move on. It's getting quite warm in this room. Also, this is really an important thing, and this is something that I didn't do right on this pocket. So this pocket does not look nearly as nice as it would have looked if it was the other side was up. But most of the time when we're doing a pocket like this, we will take one piece of fabric and fold it in half and put the fold at the top, and then we sew it in at the bottom. Well, because this pocket is gathered using fold over elastic, the fold on this pocket is actually at the bottom, because that enabled us not to have to worry about hiding raw edges down here. So that means that, yeah, you don't have to worry about hiding raw edges or finishing them, but you have to pay attention when you cut it that you want your design at the top half of the fabric, not the bottom half of the fabric. So it's cut as one piece, your fold's at the bottom, but the fold for the slip pocket is the opposite. So it's at the top. So just pay really careful attention to what the pattern tells you to do, which part's going to be visible, and pay attention to that when you are doing your cutting when you start, especially if you're using a fabric that's really directional or has a really predominant design. All right, next let's talk about this colorful backpack. And this is one that we made using Tropica from QT Fabrics. And just like we did on the Rising Tide, we quilted 2 different sets of fabrics for this. So we used this blue-green geometric for the main compartment. We also used that for the backs of the padded straps. So your padded straps are made with 2 different pieces, so they're really nice and comfortable. The second set that we cut featured this colorful tropical scene, and we used it for the front of the padded straps as well as the whole front compartment. We used that same tropical scene for the contrasting fabric that goes on the padded sleeve and also on the gathered mesh pocket on the inside of the front compartment. And then for our coordinate, we used this pink geometric, and I think we used that just like the pattern says. So we use that everywhere. So it was the bindings around all of our pieces, the bindings on our handles, and all of our straps. So the next one Jake's going to put up a picture for. We were really blown away by the amazing leader of the pack that Alyssa Zaccardi, otherwise known as @QuiltingAlyssa, made using Tula Pink's line Foam and Forest 2. So Alyssa used a big variety of fabrics for her bag. She also created a special FPP pattern for the front pocket. And I really love how Alyssa fussy cut that B for the center. She added ribbon at the top of the front compartment, and she also added bindings to the zipper strips. Alyssa said that she expected the attachment of the front compartment to be the trickiest part, but it was smooth sailing all around. So Alyssa followed the instructions for creating 3 different fabrics for her bias binding. She omitted the side mesh pockets since her Stanley has a huge handle and she knew it wouldn't fit. And then on the back of the bag, Alyssa embellished each of the padded straps with little tiny flying geese, which I thought was just absolutely amazing. And she added a trolley sleeve on the back, and we're going to talk more about that later. All right, I have one last one, I think. I think this is the last one. So we purposely skipped putting a border on the pocket on the front compartment because we really felt that this pocket would lend itself so well to fussy cutting special fabrics. And I really love how well Tula's Wolf of Pink Street from her new line Gray Work fits on this front compartment. This bag actually also solidified the name of the pattern. We had just been calling it School Backpack throughout the design and testing phase. Obviously, we knew it needed a better name. One of our testers, Michelle, suggested calling it One Big Backpack to go along with the Too Big and Too Little Totes theme. I loved that. But when someone suggested leader of the pack and held up this model, we all said yes. So I hope that you will enjoy making and using your own leader of the pack too. All right, before we move on to our jump starters, let's gather the whole family of ByAnnie backpacks so you can see how leader of the pack compares to those. And maybe I'll do them one at a time. So this is Out and About. This is our smallest backpack, and you can see it's quite a bit smaller than our Leader of the Pack. But like Leader of the Pack, it has a front compartment and a main compartment. This one has zippers that go all the way down on each side. So this opens wide and gives you really good access to all of the pockets. This one has a slip pocket as well as a gathered pocket. This one just has the gathered pockets. And this one we did do a mesh pocket on the inside as well as a zippered pocket on the outside. The body of this, or it has very similar straps. It has a similar grab handle. And on the inside here, give us some paper, we did a full height fabric pocket with mesh pockets on front, and just like the other one, a full height mesh pocket on the other side. So that's out and about, which again is our smallest. All right, the next size up is Back At Ya, which is about ready to fall off the table over here. So here's Back At Ya compared to Leader of the Pack. Here's Back At Ya compared to Out and About. So Back At Ya has just one main compartment. There is a slip pocket on the front that closes with a magnetic flap. Inside that are some little slip pockets where you could put credit cards or room keys. On the back, there's a zippered pocket. And then on the inside, we have a full height mesh pocket as well as some slip pockets on the other side. So shorter, narrower, no pockets on the side because it's just too little for that. And then very similar to Back At Ya is Got Your Back. So here you can see the difference between the four. Got Your Back is made just like Back At Ya. It's got the flap on the front pocket. It's got the zippered pocket on the outside, the same pockets on the inside. The only difference here is because this is wider, you've got room to put a bottle of water. A big water bottle like this isn't going to fit, but your normal size plastic bottle should fit in there. Or pens or your phone, any of those types of things. We did not do padded handles on these, so these have just adjustable straps that you can adjust to the length that you need. So that's Got Your Back. And then our last backpack is Courtside. So Courtside is not as big as Leader of the Pack. If you look at Got Your Back, you're going to see it's similar in height, but not nearly as deep. One thing that I should mention before I forget is that if you bought a pattern recently or looked at our website recently, you'll notice that it tells you that Courtside is 5 inches deep. Well, 5 inches deep is the Leader of the Pack, Leader of the Pack, it said was 5 inches deep. As Jake was working on the marketing videos for this and doing the pictures where he showed the dimensions, he said, that's not right. He said, it's just the main compartment that's 5 inches deep, but this absolutely adds some depth to it. So we fixed it. Future patterns will be fixed, but it's actually 7.5 inches deep by the time you add those in. So you might want to make a little note on your pattern if that matters to you, or measure the bag when you make it. All right, so the difference between Courtside and Leader of the Pack, let's compare those, is that Courtside does not have two compartments. It just has one big main compartment. There is a big pocket on the front as well as on the back. And the one on the front, we designed this so that you could carry your pickleball paddles or your tennis rackets. It's designed to open up so that you can stick, especially if you're doing tennis rackets, they're too big to fit into the top because it's narrower than the bottom. You can zip it open and put that in. On the back, we added a trolley sleeve, and Jake's going to put up a picture of Alyssa's where she did the trolley sleeve on the back of her Leader of the Pack. She did it exactly like this. So she made it exactly the same size. So if you have the Courtside pattern, you can just follow the instructions there and then position it on the back of your bag in the same space as it would tell you here. So this one has, one thing that's different on this is that the zipper strip goes all the way down on one side and partially down on the other side. So we put, room for one bottle of water. Get rid of my stuffing in here so you can see the inside. So this one has bellowed dividers on one side, which again I really love for being able to put my bottle of water in and not have it fall over, especially when I forget to close it at the top. And then just like Out and About, the other side has a full height zippered pocket with mesh pockets on top. So that is Courtside. Come on. Let's put them all out together so you can see the whole family. So Leader of the Pack's the biggest, then Courtside, then Got Your Back, then Back at You, and way down at the bottom, little tiny Out and About. Can you see all those? Mm-hmm. All right. So if you've got any questions, be sure and put those in the comments or chat, and we will answer them when we're done. All right. Maybe we'll leave this guy up here. All right, so we've covered Two Little Totes. We've covered Leader of the Pack. Now let's talk about a brand new series of patterns that we have introduced, and we are calling this series Jump Starters. So each of these are fast and fun patterns. They each include instructions. Actually, I'm going to bring them up so you can see them. They each include instructions for 2 projects, some in multiple sizes. They also include 3 pre-cut pieces of Soft and Stable. So they are really great for beginners. They would also be a great way to jumpstart a new hobby that will provide a lifetime of enjoyment and enrichment. But more experienced sewists are sure to love them too. So these are really great for using little bits of fabric, zippers, and other supplies. And if you've spent months working on blocks for a quilt and you just can't face another one, these are a really great way to, as Tula would say, cleanse the palette and jumpstart your creativity. So let's talk about these one at a time. So the first one, and I've got lots of different models. We had somebody write the other day and said, would you please show some models other than Tula Pink, or make some models with other than Tula Pink. And we try to make Tula Pink because we know people love her, but we also do lots and lots and lots of other designers. So we hope that no matter what we show here, you've got something that's going to introduce you. So this pattern includes instructions for what we call mini mats and trinket trays in 3 different sizes. So the mini mats are perfect to use as coasters, mug rugs, mouse pads, pin cushions, table protectors, and more. And you are going to find so many ways to use these little trinket trays. So here's the medium with spools of thread. I can see putting lots of wonder clips in this one. This one we've got office supplies, but you could put pens and pencils. Markers fit really nicely in here. And there's just all kinds of ways that you can use these. If you have ever wanted to master making and attaching bias binding by machine, these little projects give you a really great way to practice those skills. So you're working on a flat project and you can really focus on the techniques to achieve beautiful bindings. One thing I wanted to just show you quickly is the variety of way that you can work with fabrics. So on these, we used the same lining fabric for all 3. We used the same main fabric for the medium and the large. And then we used the lining fabric for the medium one too, the small and the large. And then same thing on the totes. This is a new line called, it's by Kim Schaefer, and it's for Andover, and my mind is blank about the name of it. This is Tula's new gray work. On this one you can see I fussy cut those seals so that you'd see them on the inside, and then I also fussy cut them for the front of each of the mats, but you can always turn it around and have a totally different look. And then we used lots of different colors on the bindings. This is a set that we made using fabrics from Juicy Juice, his new line 40. And I, again, fussy cut the designs for the mats and the trays. Just lots of ways that you can play with these. Super fun to do. And the pattern includes 3 pieces of Soft and Stable, so it's enough that you can make one of each mat, you can make one of each tray, or you can make any combination, or you can go to your scraps of Soft and Stable and pull some of those out to make extras. The smallest one uses just a 5-inch square. The biggest one uses a 5 by 8¼ inch piece. So it's really good ways to use up all those little bits of soft and stable that you have left. All right, the next one is called Pint-Sized Pals. And we've got a few different versions of those. So this one includes instructions for zippered bags in 2 sizes and 2 styles. So the easiest one is this little flat bag. It would be perfect for carrying your cash and coins, lip balm, earbuds, feminine products, much more. The standing bag has a boxed bottom, so it not only stands up, but it also expands to hold bulkier items. And my phone fits inside perfectly. Pens and markers, sewing supplies, all of those things. The great thing about these bags, there is no quilting and there is no binding, but they have beautifully finished edges that you expect in a ByAnnie pattern. So there's no raw edges anywhere. And the process of installing the zipper and joining the lining is different from any other ByAnnie pattern that we've ever written. So you will be happy to hear that this pattern, like all the others, includes a full video walking through the entire pattern. Once you get the hang of the process on these, you are going to whip these out so fast. So they're perfect to keep on hand for last-minute gifts. And as you can see, there's any variety of fabrics that you can make them in. So they're going to really be perfect for any man, woman, or child, and great for last-minute gifts. This one, we added some Tula Pink ribbon on the front. This is a cute one. Whimsy, I believe, is the name of this line. It's the same one that we did that set of Tidy Time in. I just think they're so cute and so many different looks that you can achieve just by varying your fabrics. All right, last but certainly not least is probably my favorite set of patterns in the Jump Starters series, and these are called Fidget Toys. I actually have 5 different ones of these to show you. So kids of all ages are really going to enjoy these quiet and relaxing ways to focus, to release stress, and or to exercise their fingers. So this pattern includes instructions for 2 projects, a marble maze and a fun sew-a-constrictor. So you are going to use simple sew and flip techniques to make patchwork fronts for each of these. That adds a pop of color, it makes them unique, gives you a great way to use up some scraps, and these are a really great way to learn to make patchwork panels for projects. The pattern is designed for beginners. It has lots of tips throughout for checking your seam allowances, checking the sizes of pieces as you proceed to make sure that everything fits together perfectly. And I have to tell you that all of us have really loved playing with these marble mazes. So they've got the patchwork front, and then on the back you stitch in, well, you stitch it from the front because you follow the lines of the patchwork, but you can see it better on the back. So you've got a maze designed that's stitched through it. Before you do that, you add your marble inside, and then it's just really relaxing to move that marble through the channels and get it where it needs to go. And the great thing is it's completely silent. So it's perfect to use at school, in the church, in the office, or wherever you need something to keep your hands busy and calm the mind. We used quilting cottons for all of these that we made, except on this one, we used some minky fabric. So that adds you a whole nother level of sensory stimulation. And if you get one that has the texture added in it, you could also use flannel fabrics back here, but that's a really fun way to do that too. This little sew-a-constrictor is just a fun way to learn to work with ByAnnie sew-in magnets. I can't tell you how mesmerizing it is to expand and contract this little toy. It's a great way to relieve stress and relax. And either of these toys would be perfect for someone who's in an assisted living or a care home to exercise their mind and fingers too. Again, remember that all 5 of these new patterns include step-by-step videos, and that's going to cover the steps from beginning to end. All right, let's look and see if we have any questions here. So Randy posted, this is not a question, but an idea to share. Excuse me, I have to have a drink before I read that. The totes are perfect for yarn crafts because you can run your active strand in the gap at the side of the zipper strip when the tote is closed. That is a really good idea. I love that. Next question was, how did you resize the applique designs? So I looked at the size that they were, I looked at the size that I needed it to finish, and then I just calculated how much I needed to reduce it. In most cases, I reduced it 40, 50, or 60%. I did talk to Cherrywood and said, you really need to design a pattern sized for bags, and they are most definitely interested. I was supposed to send them pictures or sizes, measure my designs and send them to those, and I unfortunately dropped the ball. I didn't remember it until this morning, but I will do that. If you are interested in having those patterns sized for bags, leave a comment so I can let them know, how many people might be interested in that. That's always helpful before they put that amount of work in. But yeah, it was just a matter of resizing the pattern that I got to a certain percentage. If you want to use vinyl for the backpack and not quilt it, can the soft and stable be attached to the material with spray adhesive? So I don't think you even need to use spray adhesive. I would take the vinyl, lay it on top of the soft and stable, wander clip it all the way around, and then just stitch 1/8 of an inch from the outside edge to join it. That's what we do. We've made several of our bags using wool, heavyweight wools, even blanket weight wools, and that's what we do on those. So you could certainly use spray adhesive, but I don't think you'd probably really need it. On your backpacks, how difficult would it be to add vinyl or cork to the bottom for more support and protection? It wouldn't be hard to do until you get to do the binding. When you sew this seam right here, you've got, actually, it's really not that bad. There's no place on, right here is probably the most bulky area, and so your side strip comes up to here, and here you've got all these layers of fabric and interfacing. That's probably the most bulky part. If you only put it at the bottom part, so it was in between where your straps were, I don't think it would be hard at all. You could just add that on top of the quilted fabric, very much like we do on the bottom of our 2 big totes and 2 little totes. So yeah, I would check that out. All right, that looks like all the questions. That was easy. I hope you enjoyed learning more about all of our new patterns and that you are excited to give them a try, and we really can't wait to see what you make. So be sure to share photos of your finished projects with us. You can do that by entering our monthly photo contest, and if you do that, you can win up to $50, and we award several prizes each month. You'll get all the details at our website by going to Community on the top menu bar and then clicking on Monthly Photo Contest, which is on the left side of the screen. And as always, please ask for our patterns and supplies at your local quilt shop. We have been shipping patterns to local quilt shops for at least the past 2 weeks, I believe, so there's a good chance they may have them in stock. If they don't, they can certainly get them either from us or from their favorite distributor. So ask for them there. These shops are such an important part of our quilting and sewing communities. It's up to all of us to help keep them strong and vibrant. We are happy to set up wholesale accounts for qualified shops, so if they want to order directly from us, just have them contact us for more information. All right, let's move on now to our monthly SewPink segment. This year we are featuring different cancers each month and sharing information and projects that we've made. So June is Uterine Cancer Awareness Month, so we're going to talk a little bit about what that is, risk factors, treatment, and more. It's a cancer that affects a very large percentage of our demographic that are ByAnnie bag makers. So uterine cancer is the most common cancer of the female reproductive system. Like all cancers, the sooner it's detected, the higher your chance of survival. And the risk for uterine cancer goes up with age, especially after menopause. Other risk factors include a family history of uterine, colon, or ovarian cancer, obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, and the use of estrogen alone for hormone replacement therapy. Since there is no routine screening for uterine cancer, it's especially important to be aware if you are at higher risk. So look out for symptoms, and some of those would be abnormal bleeding, pelvic pain or pressure, pain during intercourse, difficulty or pain during urination, and unexplained weight loss. If you experience any of those symptoms, consider reaching out to a healthcare provider to see if you should pursue diagnostic testing. Uterine cancer treatment options range from surgery, hormone therapy, chemotherapy, or a combination of several different treatments. And since hysterectomies, removal of the uterus, are common with uterine cancer, this is a good time to remind you that our free bosom buddy pattern can also be used on the lower part of a seatbelt. If you know anyone who is undergoing treatment for any cancer related to the abdomen, consider making one of these cushioned seatbelt covers to make rides to and from appointments more comfortable. Such a good idea. All right, I got to clear off my table here so I can show you my project that I made using the uterine cancer color. So the color for uterine cancer is peach. So to help build awareness this month, we made a set of our open wide 2.0 bags using a variety of peachy colored fabrics from Wyndham Fabrics. So we used some solids from their Ruby and Bee collection. We also used some fun pieces from their Radiance line. And we also embellished the borders on each of these using some beautiful woven ribbons from Renaissance Ribbons. So on this small bag, we used a fabric called Peachy Keen for the mane, and we used salmon in the Radiance for the coordinate. For the medium, we used Glow for the mane and watermelon for the coordinate. And for the large, our mane is Delphinium with orange for the coordinate. And I thought our our new coral zippers worked really perfectly for the small and medium, and then for the large, we used pumpkin. And on the inner pockets on each one of these, we used pumpkin mesh with lipstick fold-over elastic. So remember that we prepared a color chart showing solid fabrics from 16 different manufacturers. So if you want to make a project to help build awareness, please do. And you'll find links to that on our blog or by going to the SewPink page at ByAnnie.com. Before I forget, we also do a special SewPink award. So if you make a project that is inspired by any of our cancer awareness fabrics, be sure that you mention that when you enter it in the photo contest, because we've got a special prize for that. We had a lot of fun trying a lot of different variety of quilting designs on these. And I'm just going to show them from the back because I think they're more visible there. On this small one, we marked a crosshatch design, and we used the 60-degree angle on the ruler to angle those. For the medium one, we did lines at a 45-degree angle, and for the large, we marked lines at a 30-degree angle. And it's really to see how different the cross-hatching looks just by varying those angles. On this medium bag, I decided it would be really fun after I did the cross-hatching going diagonally to add some horizontal and vertical lines connecting those crosshatch squares. However, I have to say if I would do it over, I would skip those, or I would be much more careful when I drew them and cut the piece, because that is really a whole lot of lines to try and line up, and invariably things get off a bit as you go. So I was paying attention, I believe, to the vertical lines, getting those straight. And when I went to put my bag together, this bag has really strong horizontal lines that are stitched for the folds and also when you stitch along the borders. And then it has vertical lines that are stitched for the inner pockets. So if you've got anything that's inconsistent, it's going to really show up. And so if you look at this, this is one of those cases of don't do what I did. You can learn from my experience. Is I was paying attention when I cut to keep these lines straight and even, but I didn't think about the lines going across here. And you can see here, I've got way more room between the border and that line on that side than I do on this side. So I just decided to fuse one of our little ByAnnie labels under the border in an attempt to hide those uneven lines. I'm not sure how well that worked, but I think it looks better than it looked where the lines was so crooked. But it might be just drawing your eye right to that section. But I'll use this as a lesson in what not to do and learn from my experience on that. Also, because you're stitching lines to create divisions in these back pockets, you may end up with vertical lines, not matching up. Here it's not as noticeable because I didn't have any vertical quilting lines here, so those lines are a lot less noticeable. So there you go, some ideas. Open wide 2.0 bags would be really great for anyone who is undergoing treatment for uterine cancer. They could carry their tech gear, their snacks, their craft projects when they go to treatments, or they would make really beautiful gifts for caregivers and others to help spread awareness. So I hope you enjoyed learning about how we made these useful bags, and I hope that you'll be inspired too to make something to spread awareness of uterine cancer. Thank you again to everyone who joined us today. We are going to be back next Wednesday, July 2nd. Not next Wednesday. That is such, after 5 years, that just comes out of my mouth. We will be back on Wednesday, July 2nd at 2 p.m. Mountain Time with a really fun episode of Live with Annie. We are going to be joined by Amy Latta, who is a fabric designer for Andover. She is also a very popular blogger, and she does hand lettering. So we're going to talk about her new line, Bloom and Sew, showcase some of the projects that we made using it, and talk more about her techniques. So mark your calendars now, and until then, happy stitching!